another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be obsessed with something, fall into a hole while being obsessed with something, and then trying to find your way out of it? Today on the show, Carol Withams is actually going to take us down that rabbit hole and how she fell in and how she came out smelling like roses. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Andre. Glad to be here.
After 5 takes of trying to pronounce the name right, we got it right. Okay. Tell the viewers a little bit about who you are before we get started.
Sure thing. So my name is Kara. I grew up in Carmel. I played soccer, basketball. I was an athlete. My dad was an Olympic fencer, so that kind of was genetic. So,
you know that wasn't in your questionnaire about you.
No, just threw that in there.
Okay.
But he was pretty hard. Lived vicariously, I think. So from an early age, I was pushed very hard to excel in sports, and I did. Graduated from Carmel. We were state champs. I think 9 of our 11 seniors went on full scholarships to Big Ten schools.
Wow.
And so
what year was this?
1998.
Who were some of the people that was on that championship team?
Katie Carlander, Aaron Riley, Kelly Colsred. We had quite a number. Let's see. Those are the few seniors that I kept in touch with. Sarah Ayers. I think Katie went to Syracuse. Aaron went to Butler. So, yeah, we were a close group, but that was the best years of my life, high school.
Really?
Yeah. The soccer team, being a freshman on varsity, dating a senior at the time. I mean, I was on cloud 9, whole world ahead of me. I was very outgoing, but I think inside there was this, underlying need to appease and perform to gain self-worth. I was just really...
Self-worth for you or self-worth for your family?
From me.
For you?
Yeah. For my dad, I think, too, there was definitely, like, if I performed well, he loved me. If I didn't, he abandoned me. There was a kind of a...
Really? Give me an example of that, because I couldn't not see me abandoning my daughter in any shape, form, or fashion.
I mean, I think when I look back on how he was raised and his upbringing, I mean, his parents were pretty abusive verbally and physically, and they
Your
drank.
grandparents?
My grandparents, who died before, I was maybe 1 or 2.
Okay.
So I didn't know them well, but what I had heard was not good. I mean, they lived in a dirt floor, Plymouth, Indiana, and so my dad was really self-made. I mean, he got himself through school, went to IU, started the fencing program, was training in the Olympics. He blew out his knee too, so he didn't make it past that. But he transformed that into his business, and now he runs a gastroenterology center next to St. Vincent's, and he's still working. He's 77. Right. I mean, he's.
What about your mom? What about your mom? Was she impactful in?
Yeah. I think early on, not as much. My dad and I had a pretty, I would say, toxic relationship through my sports. Mom was pretty passive. Her generation, they just didn't talk about feelings. So there was kind of a disconnect there. And it wasn't until later in life, in my sober life, that my mom became a huge part of that. She stuck with me through thick and thin.
You got brothers and sisters?
I got one brother. He's in LA trying to get into Hollywood doing screenplay writings. He's a really gifted writer. He went to Wisconsin, played soccer up there.
So your whole family basically were athletes.
Yeah.
All the way around.
Yeah. And we were pretty well known. I mean, I was Miss Indiana soccer in high school my senior year, and had a lot of opportunities to go maybe outside of the state, but I was pretty... I think I was dating a guy here locally at the time, so staying close to home was important, whereas my brother, as soon as he could get out, he was out. I mean,
was it important for you to stay here because of your mom and dad? Or?
I think the relationship I was in, I was so codependent, and I went from my dad to a guy to a guy to a guy, and that kind of became like
the norm.
Always older man, like dating older, and I fell into a couple toxic relationships, during college years, and it's all hindsight, right? It's God. I can see now through all of it, but at the time,
Like, what do you mean, like toxic relationships? Because I'm pretty sure you're on the show today with a very powerful message of life.
Yeah.
And what you was going through, but around what age? Because I want your story to impact the younger females, because sports was basically something that you needed.
Yeah. I didn't know it at the time, but it really was. It was everything to me. It gave me a purpose. It was my identity, my self-worth, my feeling of. I was outperforming a lot of my peers, and so it put me on kind of a pedestal. I think I was a pretty humble person, but I just felt like.
Was it more important to you to succeed in sports, or was it more important for you to get approval or looking for approval from your father?
From my father, yeah.
Because let's just say, for instance, you didn't do good. What I know that's eyesight 20/20, but just your family better than I do. You know you. Mm-hmm. What do you think would have been the outcome had you not succeeded in soccer? Would he have made you do something else, or if you didn't succeed at all in any sport? Did you wonder what the ramifications would have been for you, not your father?
I don't think they would have been good. I think it was there was a lot of yelling. My dad had a pretty vicious temper, and it could be like a walking on eggshells feeling. So if there was a bad performance in a game, there would be things thrown. There would be doors slammed.
Oh, he was a Bobby Knight before.
He was definitely a Bobby Knight. My dad would be that dad in the stands. He was so passionate.
Was he the same way with your brother? Did your brother have the same type of peer pressure?
My brother had asthma, and so he was a goalkeeper. But all of the living through a child, it came through me.
So everything your dad wanted,
and the fighting and the anger was always at me, and my brother would be hiding under his sheets in his bedroom. He's 5 years younger, and so I took the brunt. But what I didn't realize is it impacts the whole family.
Did your mom even step up and say, look?
She didn't know what to do. I just think that she was stuck with her own childhood issues and not feeling like she had a voice. And when my dad would she was there, but I don't remember her ever stepping in or saying stop.
Did the school or your friends notice anything?
My friends did. Yeah, they did. I had a girlfriend at a tournament one year. We were gone. We rarely ate dinners at home. Everything was traveling, right? We would eat Thanksgiving meals at Cracker Barrel most years, and there was a tournament that we were driving across country to Minnesota, and I realized about 3/4 of the way there I forgot one of my soccer cleats. And so we're in the hotel room, and my girlfriend comes in, and I'm like, hey, my dad's going to lose his shit if he knows I forgot a soccer cleat. And so I was like, she had an extra pair. Well, she was like size 11. This girl was huge.
Way
and I
bigger.
put on these shoes, and my dad walks in the room, and I'm like, Dad, listen, I forgot a cleat, but don't worry. Mandy's got it covered, I'm good to go. And he saw the shoes and how big they were on me, and he took the bag, threw it across the hotel room, broke a couple lamps. At one point, Mandy was like, all right, I'll see you later. She was scared.
Were you scared of your father?
I was scared. I was very scared of my dad. I was scared of it was definitely approval. That was my first experience of love, was seeking his approval in everything. But what I didn't realize is when my parents got divorced when I was like 12, Dad said, I'm done, I don't love you anymore, walked out. And
whoa, he told you, his daughter?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Alone, abandoned, worthless, that I was a failure. That I didn't do enough to keep my family together. My mom was on the bathroom floor crying that night, and
you're from Carmel, and a lot of people got to understand Carmel is very prestige.
Yes.
When you mention Carmel in Indiana, people know you are well off.
Right. Yeah. And I think on the outside we were well off. We had money. My dad had a good, stable job at the time.
Did you try to keep this from the community, the environment? Because everybody in Carmel, the school system knows
Yeah, now. I think back then it was a little easier. Like before,
Okay.
I mean, cops would take us home back in the day when we were
Right.
drinking and driving. There was no
They're not doing that now.
getting a DUI. No, they're not doing that now. I mean, you have to have your kid on a leash now. I mean,
Yeah.
back in the day, we were out playing past dark. I was gone for weeks at a time, packed a bag, would go stay at my girlfriend's house, and they had big brothers, and so I think that helped me to kind of get beat up, to this like to a point where, I mean, I'm pretty tough. I mean, I'm little, but like I was, I think with my dad's genetics, but what I never learned, like the feeling of self-love. I never felt safe at home. I just felt constantly like, I was the reason that my family fell apart.
How well do you think you hid that for, and for how many years?
So I think what happened, I mean, I kind of turned it into kind of a beast mindset of like, so, I'm going to excel at sports and prove to my dad, that I can make it. And I took off. I mean, I did extremely well in high school and had a huge group of close friends. And drinking I was pretty focused. And then I think I turned 16. I was a victim of rape, and that had a big impact on my first sexual encounter.
From somebody that you knew?
No. Met him in the Bahamas. I was drinking, but put myself in a bad situation in a car. And I remember, my mind kind of blocks out some things, but I do know that experience changed the feeling that I was like worthy.
What do you mean when you say put yourself in a bad situation? Because young girls need to understand that. Like, what you was in the Bahamas? Were you?
I was in the Bahamas. I was with my family, with a girlfriend and her family, and her and I decided to go off the resort and walked on the beach. Met a couple guys. He took, Jen, and then I went with the other guy, and we went and parked. I mean, just getting in his car. I mean, hindsight, two girls, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, in a foreign country.
Yeah.
And this guy was definitely in his 30s at least, and the immediate level of like, but not seeing it until we were in it. And having some drinks during it, obviously, I felt like it was my fault. But hindsight, I mean, it wasn't, and I should have.
Did you report it to your dad, the authorities?
No, and I kept that to myself too, which was another mistake, which I would later talk through in therapy. I've been in therapy for a number of years, but I think that was the first time that I really felt like I had self-destructed or done something to hurt myself. And not sharing it because I felt again like I was responsible, and so I stuffed that, and then that I think became my feeling of I don't deserve love, I don't deserve respect. I kept growing in my soccer, and I was able to get through college and play. But I know, like, inside, I mean, there was a hole forming there that my dad had left that I started to fill with men, and then slowly alcohol, which I think became, I didn't know it at the time. I mean, I knew my family history that there was alcoholism, but I think because I had gone through school and, I thought I was a social drinker. Although hindsight, I mean, I was always the designated drunk driver. I was amazing, drinking and driving.
So you really shouldn't have been the designated driver. No. Eyesight 2020. Okay.
No, right. And, I mean, I look back, I think Carmel, there was a bubble feeling, and I thought I wasn't going to have any results from some of the things that I was doing. And, I was starting to hurt my family in ways where, I look back, I mean, I wasn't there for my brother. I really felt in a way that I kind of abandoned him in a sense, and I was trying to fill this void inside with anything that would just numb me. Like, I just wanted to escape
How bad did it get for you? We talked about it earlier, and I remember telling you there is no way in the world that none of this could take place with a when you're drinking, but it did happen to you. So how crazy did crazy get for you? And you know,
So this is the first time I've really spoken outside of my recovery network, about it. But I think it's important, especially for young people, to know that this is, at least if I could tell my younger self, some signs to look for. But when the drinking turned from a social on the weekends with my fiance at the time in early 2000s to now it's more daily. It was a few glasses of wine, and then it became like, at some point it shifted to almost a need to maintain.
What was you trying to maintain? Because
maintain
you
my
got a
function.
relationship with a fiance, and at one point you was married.
Right.
So what are you trying to cover up?
So for me, I think alcohol was filling the void that, this burning desire to just escape from my past or escape from this feeling of failure. That just my brain was wired different, right? I know now about alcoholism. It's a disease, and it's a thinking disease. And I just have this replaying of just negative self-talk.
Yeah, but you got married. Shouldn't that be happily blitz? You're married, he's successful, and you're still using alcohol as a coping mechanism?
Well, actually, I got married when I was sober. So I was not drinking by the time I actually got married. I was engaged while I was drinking. That blew up for good reason, because we were both, I think, alcoholically drinking. I did go to my first
The blind leading the blind?
Yeah, yeah, it was fire, and it was not it wasn't a stable. It was almost like the home I grew up in. It was real chaotic. I was on eggshells. Why do you think you
married him then?
Well, I didn't marry the one I was engaged to. We split it off.
Okay.
So then when I met my ex-husband, the only one that I've been married to, Billy, we met at a time where I don't think we were both, sober. And we did actually get sober relatively close together, but my drinking, when at the time that I got out of my first real toxic relationship, I would say, with my ex-fiance, I had a miscarriage, and I think it might have been maybe related to my drinking at the time. I don't know, but yeah, it was pretty traumatic having that experience, and knowing I wasn't with the right guy. It started to get pretty bad. As far as abusive, it kind of became, he was like a father figure, which I think, hindsight, I think that's what a lot of people do. They don't know other than what they knew growing up.
When do you decide to when does it become so bad that you say, I gotta change my life, or I'm gonna die?
Yeah. I think everybody gets to that point where, I came to the end of myself. It was no longer about the legal ramifications. I had already gone through some detoxing and some treatment centers, and it wasn't working. And I remember, that no external circumstance or situation is going to get me out of this. I got to do it for me. And somehow, I think that's when I found God. And I think I was literally just alone. I had a moment of clarity, and I knew that if I continue, I'm going to die. I could keep, jails, institutions, death. Those are typically the three end results of this disease. And, I'd known of recovery for a number of years prior, but for the first time I went back into recovery, into the group, and said, I'm Kara, I'm an alcoholic, and I meant it, and I owned it. And then
so this was your first time ever going into a treatment center?
No.
So you've been repetitive, but this time you decided to take it serious. You're a popular athlete. You surround yourself, you have what appears to be a good structure from your classmates. You still stay in contact with them. Your mom is there. What about your dad? Did he decide to resurface in your life as you're going through recognizing and elevating yourself?
Yeah, Dad, he took it pretty hard when I had some legal ramifications from a couple, drinking incidences with Carmel's finest. But we have just now, I would say, in the last few years, started to really reconnect without sports, without any other. Now that I've been in recovery and I'm stable, today.
Why do you think your friends didn't see your cry for help?
I think I hit it pretty well from the outside. I'm really good at, I think, putting on a show for people when I'm around others. I was the happy, fun. I might have been drinking. They didn't know how much.
Did you
nobody
think
knew.
behind the scenes that they kind of was like, she needs some help?
Yeah, I had a couple girlfriends growing up that are like angels to me. I mean, and they were the ones to say, Carrie, you're repeating yourself. I mean, I started blacking out and I wouldn't remember chunks of time. And
wow.
Drinking became, I kind of crossed that line. My ex would always say, when you turn into a pickle, if you're a cucumber, once you turn into a pickle, you don't turn back.
Mm-hmm.
And I had crossed that line at some point of drinking where it became a necessity. And and when the moment came where I had that moment of clarity, I knew I needed physical help to detox. So I did go get that done, and that was Thanksgiving of 2014, and I've been, recovered since, a day at a time. I mean, it's just...
What's the hardest part about that? When we hear something that says one day at a time, if you have going through what you're going through, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing this, your story, but one day at a time for someone that's going through what you're going through can seem like eternity.
Yeah.
What were some of the toughest things that you had to go through to get to where you're at now? And I know one of them had to be coming to grips with your father and your mom and not being there for your brother, but what else is it?
Outside help was good for me. I think therapy is fantastic, and I think that without understanding, that I'm not a bad person, I think anybody with an addiction or a disease like that, it's becoming more, open, but I'm so open to anybody when it makes sense to talk about my recovery, because I feel like the biggest part was isolation. I think that, the opposite of addiction is connection. And I lost the ability to connect with others because I was so ashamed, guilty, remorseful, depressed, and that snowballed. And so I think it takes time. So the phrase, one day at a time, I mean, I don't say I'm never going to drink again. I mean, who knows? But I know that for today, I really can look in the mirror and be proud of who I am and everything that, I'm the most unconditionally loving person because I don't judge others. I feel like everybody makes mistakes, but I mean, by the grace of God, I'm here, and it does take an army, and I was fortunate. I picked up a lot of amazing angels along the way, and
if you had to go back, what would be 3 things you would change about your life?
I would have gone to therapy sooner to try to work through the repressed. I knew something wasn't right when I was feeling like I'm never good enough. So I think reaching out for help at an earlier age. My ego had to be smashed, and I think that, it takes what it takes for anybody who goes through this. But I wish I would have had I wish I would have had maybe those to look up to, but in a healthier way. But I think opening up is the number one thing, that I'm not alone. And I just kept thinking I'm a horrible person who lives in Carmel and, has the great exterior that I had with sports and everything else. I mean, I succeeded in all aspects of life, but I could not manage drinking until I fully surrendered. And, the other thing is just, I think there's a trust that needs to happen and a belief that there's something greater. There's a purpose for me. It's not what others think. It's the world's scary, and I want to be hope for others. I have an amazing opportunity in business to do that, and then in my personal life to give back any way I can, and just to connect souls to, whether it's to jobs or whether it's to recovery.
What resources do you think need to be put in place based on what you went through? Naturally, there was an internal cry for help that, whether or not you shared it or not, it seems like some adults, either in the school system or in the college, I mean, nobody can be that great of a chameleon. Even chameleons get caught by their predators. What resources needed to be in place for you, and what would you recommend for the younger individuals?
I think now, again, the stigma with alcoholism is less. I know I try to share, that medical facilities and anybody that's in the healthcare system, they understand the signs, of what this might look like.
What were your signs? Now that you look back, what were your signs? Because you said you hid them pretty good, but if you didn't have that chameleon over you, what would your signs have been?
I think isolating, I think escaping, I think I had tendencies of self-destruction. But I think at the time, nobody really maybe understood alcoholism like they do today, or it wasn't something that was just really discussed. I just think it's so important that people know that it doesn't matter what you do, where you come from, where you live, where you work. I mean, this disease can affect anybody, but that there's hope. I think if it's talked about, like this, I think that just people knowing that,
they're not alone.
They're not alone. They're not alone, and it's my purpose now is to help others realize, like, no matter what you've done, and I've heard some stories that would make me look like a saint. But that it's once you get it out, it loses its power,
Okay, I like that.
And that's the biggest thing that I know today, is that I can share my truth today, and as long as I do that, and I'm rigorously honest with myself, and I'm just trying to do the next right thing, I'm not gonna, what is it, Vince Lombardi said, I'm not gonna catch perfection, but I'm not gonna achieve perfection, but I might catch excellence on the way,
Okay.
So that was a quote that stands out. But I do want to be somebody that people look up to, not for my achievements, but for my vulnerability, and for just that I was able to overcome some things that maybe others need to hear.
But now you're doing something great. Your life is completely transformed because you put the right foot forward and made the right decisions. Tell me about your life now. You're doing great things now. You're helping empower other people. You're working with a great company now that's bringing impactful things. You tell what you're doing now. Don't let me tell your story.
Yeah, thank you. It's a beautiful thing today to be able to say that, I am divorced, but the relationships that I have today with everybody, including my ex, my family, I'm there for them. I'm present fully. The firm that I work with, we do IT recruitment and consulting, and I went from a big corporation to a smaller firm because this is who I am. I want to build genuine relationships. We're in the ultimate people business. There's nothing I could do that would be more impactful than opening jobs and helping companies find the right candidates.
Right.
And we have a firm, my CEO, I'm the successor of his firm, which is amazing to me given who I am and what I've come through. To have the trust of somebody that's been in this business for 35 years to say, Kara, you're the next generation of Ambassador Solutions.
How does that make you feel?
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I really, short time ago, it was looking pretty dark, not knowing who, but so I go to work every day. I mean, I wake up, say thank you, help me, and just to be able to open doors for people in that way. With Brad and our firm, we're small. We don't have a big marketing budget, but the referrals and the relationships we create.
Relationships is the key.
It's it. And I couldn't do that in a bigger firm. That was about the bottom dollar. It was transactional. It didn't feel right for me. So again, by the grace of God, I found a firm that I feel like I can ride with for my days.
Before we wrap up, once again, thank you so much for coming and sharing such a beautiful story. What do you bring? What do you think they saw in you? Because at one point in your life, you're this rock star athlete, but deep down inside, there was a lot of torment going on. Mm-hmm. What do you think that this company saw in you that you wasn't seeing in yourself that made them take a chance on you? What's your evaluation of why you got the position, and why all of a sudden he's ready to turn the keys to the Mercedes over to you?
Yeah, and I know I wasn't the first, but Brad would attest that my vulnerability, my genuine desire to help others, period. Mm-hmm. And, he knew of my disease. I was upfront with him about it, that I'm in recovery, and that I just, the values that we stand for are values to die for to me, which are dignity, integrity, and excellence. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's just a beautiful opportunity, and we've done really well for the last 6 years since I've been there. So.
Let's give a shout out to the name of the company. What's the name of the company? And Brad, forgive me.
Ambassador Solutions.
The Ambassador Solutions. You guys make sure you follow them. I like it when companies do that, and he didn't have to. So it was something in you that he saw, and naturally you're going to take that company to a whole new level for being vulnerable, open, and really taking time to listen and share your story. Leave the viewers with something positive that you wake up to every day. You just don't wake up and go, wow, thank you. You wake up with something even more going on in your mind. Leave the viewers with that message that you wake up with.
I think I hear the term, I feel like a cracked pot, but I know that it's the crack that waters the flowers below, and it's not the whole pot. And so regardless of the cracks in me and the things and the scars, those have turned into hope and strength for others, and I hope that I can help others just by sharing my story and for people not to feel alone. That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.